Hello, everyone. Isaiah here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Make Comics, the show where it only takes me about 4 episodes to actually get the title right in the intro. So, what you see here is a page of Transletown, and I was actually working on this at the same time that I was working on the project that you saw in the last episode, Genesis Blue and the Magical Microphone. And every time I pick up another project like this, I always say to myself that I'm going to work on Transletown at the same time, and I'm not going to have to put my webcomic on hiatus. And then I get to a point where it gets to crunch time, and I'm like, oh God, okay, I really just need to focus on this one project. And so, to all 5 of my Transletown fans that have stuck with me through all these years where I've done several other projects, I have to say thank you very much. And this current story arc is finally coming to a conclusion. I can't believe that I've been working on it since 2014, and I didn't expect it to be almost 100 pages long, but it's reaching the end now, and weekly pages have started updating again. I think for the past 2 or 3 weeks by the time this episode comes out. So we're definitely going there, and I'm already preparing what the next story arc is going to be. And I'm also thinking about some other projects that I want to work on. It's probably going to be another webcomic thing, probably not going to be um, another floppy kind of comic project, although that might also be in the horizon. I was talking to a few writers that I worked with in the past on some other projects like Help Wanted and Fight School High School about the possibility of continuing those projects. And we'll see how that goes. I really don't want to have to put Transletown on hiatus again, but if I do work on projects like that again, I think that I'm probably gonna transition Transletown to being more like its little spin-off project, Transltinies, because that's a little easier for me to keep up with while working on other projects. And if you've been waiting with bated breath for the end of this story arc, I do just want to say that I'm not going to write anything this long for Transletown ever again. I think it's a whole lot better for shorter, snappy stories. And so maybe transitioning to a format that's more like Transltinies will be best for it. But that's still going to take a little bit of thinking about before I get there. We're going to focus on finishing this story first, and you'll see after this will be another page of Genesis Blue because, like I said before, it kind of got to that point where it was like, okay, I can't do both of these at the same time. And I think that might actually end up being the last page of Genesis before moving on to some other Transletown projects because I think I didn't record the rest of the pages, but we'll see. We'll see about that because I actually haven't looked at all the recorded content that I have here. But that's enough talking about that stuff. We'll talk about what's actually going on here on the page and also some of the stuff that I was thinking about when I was writing this story of Transletown. So the characters are actually currently in this place that I call the Creeper Zone, which is the monsters that are under your bed or in your closet. They don't actually stay there. They stay within a space within space is kind of the way that I thought about it. But of course, if you've seen something like Monsters Inc., the idea probably isn't incredibly unfamiliar because they get transported to or they exist in another world and they make doors that go to children's rooms. And I wanted to think more about like dimensions and space for the explanation of the monsters in your closet and under your bed. And when coming up with what this space would look like, I wanted it to feel kind of like an empty vastness, just like space. So I came up with this idea of something misty and cloudy, and just kind of a void with these paths that characters can walk on because I wanted them to be able to move normally. I didn't want it to be like a vacuum or anything like that because I didn't want things to get too disoriented since a lot of the story arc was going to take place there. I did originally have the idea, and you could see it on the cover page that I designed for this episode of kind of characters existing on different planes in this space, so they could be like upside down and right side up while still in the same area. But again, I thought that was really disoriented, disorienting. And so I wanted to keep all of the characters at least somewhat on the same plane, but it also becomes kind of a story thing that they have their own paths. And what I really want it to do, or rather, when I think back and look at this design now, especially as I'm concluding this story, I do kind of feel as if I could have done a little bit more to kind of give a little bit more volume and to kind of make it a little bit more interesting to draw. Because honestly, after drawing this space for so long, it's like I'm a little sick of it. Um, and I think I could have done a lot more with geometry, especially after playing games like Persona 4 and Tokyo Mirage Sessions and kind of seeing their take on another dimension and space within space kind of thing. I thought it was really cool that they use a lot of shapes and a lot of patterns. And what I feel ends up happening here in this voidness is that you don't really get much of a sense of space. So one way that I thought about that and giving a clue, especially since the characters end up getting separated, giving some sort of clue as to where everyone was located, was I came up with the idea that when things get lost in this space, they don't necessarily keep their same size. And so that not only gave me a really cool setting later where one of the creatures lives within a paper castle that has expanded in size, but it also gave me the idea to have something to ground each location in. So in this first location, I tried to keep it to a lot of things that you would find in a school, since this takes place within or between the space of the lockers of a school. And the first part of this story arc had a dodgeball game, and so I thought the first big item to have in the background would be this big dodgeball. And it also helped to give it kind of this space kind of feel. It ends up feeling like kind of this planet in the background. And I used that idea to every time we move to another spot here in this creeper zone, there's always something big in the background to give a sense of where we are right now and who we're with right now. And when characters get closer to the location of someone else, I use that same object. And so later you see a giant chalkboard eraser, and you see a giant calculator, and you see giant erasers and pencils and all that kind of stuff. And I tried to use that kind of thing to really ground where we were within this massive void. Here's the vice principal character, who's also a wizard, and I really enjoy drawing this guy. Particularly, I like his eyebrows. They feel really fun. They're very round. There's a lot of round shapes on this guy, and it feels especially good because in Transaltown there's so many monsters and demons, and so many of them have pointed ears, uh, that it feels kind of good to draw a character here who has round shapes. And well, I draw kind of everyone with some round shapes in Transaltown, but it's particularly his ears are round, and you don't see that a whole lot in Transaltown, unfortunately, because like a character like Alicia, who is human, her hair is constantly covering her ears. And I like his mustache, and I like his beard, and I like his eyebrows because they're all round and they're just very, very fun to draw. So one of the things that you'll notice here, last episode I started to superimpose the completed artwork for the panel here, because once again, I get really close up here to control my line work, and I know that that can kind of get a little disorienting, and I wanted to have something here so you guys could see what things would end up progressing towards. And Transaltown is a black and white comic, and so I do use a lot of uh, feeling of blacks, spot blacks or betas, as well as I'll occasionally use tones. And you'll see that here in the finished panel. And I'm not going to show that process in these videos because I just kind of think that it's not a very interesting process. I don't think you guys want to see me just use a wand tool and then a fill tool and then mostly be done with what's going on there. So I do cut those out of the process here. But I also wanted you guys to see where the speech bubbles and stuff like that would be too. So I use the absolute finished part of this so you can see that full kind of composition there, because when I work on these pages, I do put my lettering in before I start to ink. I actually will do my rough layout of the page, and then I'll do a kind of a quick mock-up of the lettering. It'll have all the actual finalized text. But that helps me just decide, okay, I need to leave this much space here and that much space there. And while I'm in the early phases of things, I can tweak the composition around so that I'm never not leaving enough space for any of the dialogue that needs to go on. Because that was a problem I had a lot when I first started doing this, was I would actually write the dialogue last, and I would end up drawing a page and then think to myself, oh God, I have a lot of things that I actually want to say in this panel, and I left myself no room. Looking here at this particular panel, I do think I could have probably maybe added something, some sort of tone to the background, maybe just a simple gradation tone, just kind of fill in the space of the composition there a little bit more. One other thing that you'll notice is that there is a panel there, that the second panel, that I didn't record, and that's because I just forgot to turn the recorder on. And that's really unfortunate, because I would have liked to have talked about that panel over there. I think there's a great character expression in it, especially since these last two panels you're going to see here is a close-up on a face and a close-up of some feet. So that's most unfortunate. But it is what it is. I kind of do that a lot, is that sometimes I'll come back from a break when I'm recording things and then forget to turn the recording on once I get started, and I'm like, oh no, I just lost, or I didn't lose anything, right? Because I actually finished the page, but I didn't get any video of that. And I'll definitely try to be more cautious of that in the future, but there's still a lot of recordings of past me that's going to make that mistake, and I actually made that mistake on what I was recording this week, so, well, we'll see. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Here in this panel, you can see that I try to make this effect of these binders kind of moving on their own, because that is a plot point here in this part of Shantytown, and she's just figuring that out. And I use these kind of squiggly lines to kind of get that idea across, of one's moving towards her and one's moving away from her. But looking at it now, I kind of feel as if I could have come up with a different way of showing off that effect. Maybe kind of like some ghost lines of where the binder was more in the actual shape of the binder, and some of them coming away from her and some of them coming towards her. But I don't think I quite get that effect off here in this way. But you know, in the future, that's something for me to think about a little bit more. I make these kind of quickly, and sometimes what I feel will work in the moment, I'll look back several months down the line and be like, oh, I can do that better next time I do that same kind of idea. But that's all the time that we're going to have for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and be sure to do all that awesome YouTube stuff, the likes, comment, and subscribe, all that cool stuff. I love comments. I would like to read those, so it'd be fun if you guys left those. But anyways, have the best possible day that you can have, and I'll see you guys here next time.